And we're back. I got Rory back in the building. We say, my boy, it's always a
Hello,
pleasure.
hello. Yeah, good to be back. Good to be back. Had a little break with the international break, so just getting back into the football content now.
I mean, I understand what you're saying with having a break as much as you can as an Arsenal fan. And I always say it's never a dull day, in it. Like, whether we talk about Arsenal from like the games we've played, the talking points, Mikel Arteta, obviously, I'd imagine you already know we're facing, some would say an injury crisis, but things of that ilk. But before we get into all of that, yeah, just because I haven't had you on the platform for a while, what have you made of the season so far, man?
Yeah, I mean it's been decent. Like other than the draw against Sunderland, which was frustrating. Up until that point, it had kind of gone as well as you could have expected. Like, I know the defeat
Mm.
at Anfield was annoying, but we've been through a fair number of injuries, and we've proven that we could handle them better than we did last year. We've proven that we can handle certain games a lot better than we've done in previous season in terms of those like Fulhams and Palaces. So,
Bogey
yeah, all
teams.
things considered, like if you told us we'd be 4 points clear, like going into this stage of the season, I think everyone would have ripped your hand off for it. So, yeah, it's been good.
I'm happy you said that, Rory, because literally word for word, especially with the bit your hand off point, that's exactly what I said. And I know people do see it as a bit of a cop out, a bit of a lazy view. And it's not to say that we couldn't have done better in certain games and we're all perfect and things like that, but we literally would have. So that leads me to then ask you, yeah, obviously we're 4 points clear. And I know you know football, so it's not a thing where you're happy that we have that, but you're not excited because it's November and all those things. Potentially, it could be cut to a point before we obviously play Spurs. What do you make of that? And what do you make of Man City? Because surely if you're Man City, they're getting their act together. Not that they're wishing injuries on us, but they're seeing that there's a developing injury kind of crisis. They know we've got some tough games. Yeah, where are you at with City then? Because they seem to potentially be, some would say favourites. Others would say, it's gone from a three horse race to a shootout between us and them.
Yeah, look, I think with City, you've always got to beware of City, of the
Facts.
caliber of player that they've got, of Pep Guardiola. Things have looked like they're clicking a bit more. I think they've looked better defensively, which coming into the season, the big advantage I thought we had over City was that I didn't think that they looked solid enough defensively, and I didn't think they'd really like address those issues in the summer. But moving Nunez at right back has just looked way better than he did last season. Gvardiol now at centre back looks a lot more solid. So yeah, I think defensively they're better. I think Newcastle away is like a big test for them, and if they come through that, really similar to how we came through Newcastle away, and for us that was like, okay, that's a big statement win. If they can do the same, close the gap to a point before the North London derby, yeah, I think they're a real problem. And going into the next sort of month, I think we've probably now got, having had a relatively easier set of fixtures, we're now the ones that have got on paper a harder set of fixtures, whilst Liverpool and City have got slightly easier. So yeah, it's a big weekend and a big month.
You touched on Liverpool. It'd be rude not to mention them. Like, what have you made of them? Do you think they're out of the race? Are they still there? Like, where are you at with Liverpool? Because I tipped them to win the league at the start. Because obviously they did win it. They obviously brought in a lot of players. I know players have to gel and things, but I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't say that, and I couldn't have predicted. I knew there'd be teething issues, but I couldn't have predicted what we're seeing at this point. But yeah, what are you saying for Liverpool? Are they out of it? Are they still in it? Like, where are you at with them?
Yeah, I don't think they're fully out of it yet. Similar to you, I predicted that they'd win because I think you looked at the team from last season, what they added to it. They still had the basis in terms of like the midfield and defense, other than Trent. So yeah, I thought that they would. I thought they would win, and like I think the issue that they've got is that there's a lot of games between now and January, and I do think they need that January window to address a couple of problems. I think they need a proper six, as much as Gravenberch has done a job there and
They
did a
tried to
job
get
there
R1,
last
man. So they're
season.
100% they do.
Exactly. I think they've got big issues at centre back. I assume that they'll go and get Gahey in January, but depending on how us and City do, like that gap could be too big by the time January comes around. Like they really cannot afford to drop any more points over the next few weeks. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I think in terms of addressing those attacking issues that they've got as well, you still haven't seen Salah fit and firing. And even if he can work himself back into form, he's going to work himself back into form and then go straight to AFCON. So yeah, I think they're the biggest outsider of the three of us. But again, you look at the talent that they've got, you can't rule it out.
You can't rule out things. And as we all know, or people that have been watching football. It doesn't matter if you're, I would say, 16 all the way to 30, 40. You know, it sounds cliche, but a week is a long time in football. We've played, what, 17 games, 11 in the Premier League. There's been many twists and turns. 1 minute, this one's the hero, then it's negative. So you can imagine with us being in November, going into the run of games, like you said, and ultimately playing football till May, I would just say to Arsenal fans, just keep your heads. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. The table's going to fluctuate. You know, obviously, City could bottle the next kind of run of fixtures and our gap could increase. Likewise, they could potentially lap us, or both teams, you know, week in, week out is up and down. I just think Arsenal fans have to keep their heads, man. It's not to say don't be happy, don't be excited, don't be this, that, and the third, because that's what makes football. You touched on January, yeah, and I wanted to ask you, I'm kind of skipping ahead, you know, and I'll kind of circle back on this throughout the course of the live stream, but like, do you think we'll act in the market in January?
I think it's unlikely. The only way I see us really doing it is, you know, if a big opportunity presents itself. I think what we've seen with Berta compared to Edu was a willingness to make something happen. Like, you know, the Hincapié deal, I think, is the best example. That was never part of the plan, but it became something that they could do. And so he did everything to make sure it did happen. So, like, you do look at Semenyo and that supposed
We're going to get onto
that he's got. And that's maybe one where, you know, you go, look, if we can do it, and if us not doing it means he goes to like a Liverpool, who's a direct rival, and within the next 12 months, we know that we probably are looking for a left winger, and we're probably going to move Trossard and potentially Jesus on. Maybe you just have to fast track that, do it in January and get it done. So, yeah, maybe that happens. But otherwise, you know, you look at the squad that we've got, there's a lot of depth. There's just a lot of players in general. So you'd have to start shifting players in January. And, you know, if we're top of the league and most of the players have come back from injury, I don't think there's going to be any sort of panicking to get anything done.
And I make you right, because it's not to say we don't need players, because I'm sure Mikel Arteta and whatnot, you always want to improve. I think every manager would always want players. They'll never completely shut the door and whatnot. But there's been times where we've been, like last season, where we've been dying for players, or even the year, unfortunately, we missed out on Champions League football to Spurs, where we've needed players and we've not acted. So when you've got, quote unquote, the most perfect kind of squad, collective squad you've had of the Emirates era, and as you said, which I make you right, players coming back from fitness, we'll just have to see. In an ideal world, I don't think any manager or any team wants to sign people in January, because everyone would be fit. You would have done the business. It's a reactive window, as you kind of know. You know, there could be injuries, players want to leave, all of that kind of jazz. So I guess we'll have to cross that bridge when it happens. I do want to ask you, though, like, how confident are you in, firstly, Arsenal winning the league, and then secondly, Arsenal just getting some sort of silverware? Because I think it's not to say we're the favorites. It's like, I rate Liverpool, I rate City, I rate us. It's like having, I don't know, a prime Mike Tyson and three boxers of that level. Everyone can beat up everyone, kind of thing. So I still think we could win the league, but obviously things are happening. I always say on my channel, I can't tell you what trophy, we're gonna win, but I am genuinely convinced that in May 2026, we're going to win silverware in it. So, like, how confident are you in our chances of winning the Premier League, and then away from that, just winning a trophy?
Yeah, I definitely think we'll win a trophy. I think we're just, because of the depth that we've got, like, we are the best set to go deep in the Carabao Cup and in the FA Cup. And when push comes to shove, even in the Carabao Cup, when you get those like two-leg semi-finals, you know, we're probably going to be in the top 8 in the Champions League, which means we won't have to do those 2 playoff games. So yeah, and also, like, when players are coming back from injury now, there's going to be such a level of competition where even when we are rotating in those games, the players that are coming in are like genuinely desperately fighting for a spot in the sort of Premier League squad. So yeah, I think we're well set to win one of those. And then on the Premier League, we're favourites. Like, there's no, you know, there's no way of looking at it in a different, like, we're top of the league by 4 points. We've had the strongest squad this season. We are favourites. Whether or not we do it, I think a big element is going to depend on the attacking players that are coming back. Do we find a way of kind of getting Gyokeres and Havertz firing in every game? Which I think I think they're suited to different styles of opponents and different games. And I think if you can get them both firing against the teams that suit them, I think, you know, we could be unstoppable. And that'll be it. It'll be, you know, it's all going to be on us. The pressure's on us. But yeah, I think we can do it.
I think, especially with your point with Gyokeres and Havertz, like, because it piggybacks off into a point I always say, in that I came into this season, whatever you think about Gyokeres, whatever you think about Havertz, whatever you think about all of these kind of players, every play, it's like we've got a toolbox. Every one of these guys are tools. Just get over the line in something. Like, this is a season. I don't want to nitpick about this one and that one and the third. And I genuinely believe if Havertz is, and I know people, a lot of people are happy. Obviously, we wanted Gyokeres, but some people just don't like Havertz in it. I always say you need a squad. If Havertz was fit, I don't think Gyokeres is injured, purely because that's a muscular injury. We all know the dynamics of him having to play a lot of games and all of that kind of jazz. Yes, Marino was fit, and you'd have to speak to Mikel Arteta as to, why he didn't rotate them two up front kind of thing. But we need a squad. There's even scope to play both of them. And, we've got to a quarter of the season and there's been injuries. We came into this season with a number of injuries and things. Let me be devil's advocate, though. Do you really think we're the favourites? Because one thing that Liverpool and City have is they've been there, they've done it, they've worn the T-shirt. We've always kind of been close, but not so far. And speaking for myself, it's not to say I think we're the biggest and baddest and we're better than everyone. I just think before I look at Liverpool or City, take nothing away from them, I always feel we've always been our best friends and our worst enemies. I actually think the reason we don't win the league, if we don't, it would kind of be us. So, yeah, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I hear it. I think the been there and done it thing, it applies to everyone. Unless City and Liverpool are going to be the only two teams that win the Premier League for the rest of history, like, someone's going to have to come along, and we're the only ones that have come close, really. Like, if you think last 5 years, when was the last time City, Chelsea or United fought for it? So the onus is on us. And then also, like, the City team that won it last, a lot of that has changed. A lot of the players that they relied on to, like, drag them through at that point, definitely a Kevin De Bruyne, but even the likes of Kyle Walker, they don't have. So they've lost a bit of the spine. Edison, even, I know they've got Donnarumma, but yeah, I think with them, they've got to prove again that this kind of new gen, I think some of them call it like City 3.0. If they've got to prove that they can do it. And then with Liverpool, I think it's a different issue with them. I don't think sort of being in there and doing it's the issue. I think genuinely it's just like figuring out kind of who and what they are again now, because I don't think they really know what their style is with the new group of attacking players. So yeah, they've got their own questions, and we just got to focus on us.
I hate to be that guy, because I'm sure you get asked this, and I've definitely asked this. It's kind of nice to ask someone else it. How much pressure is on Mikel Arteta, and where do we go with? Obviously, you win no silverware, which I don't think is going to be the case, but yeah, it is something we have to consider, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of pressure on it, like, especially because, you do look at all of the other teams, Chelsea, Spurs, even United, that have picked up trophies more recently than us. Like, for as much as we can say, well, we've been going for the title, and so we've sacrificed those competitions. Like, there comes a point where you do have to win things. You can't go 6 years without winning a trophy. And also, like, there's a window for any club when you have a group of players and everything has kind of come together at the right time, which has happened for us, even in terms of, bringing through players like Saliba and Gabriel at the right time where they're all kind of in their prime. You couldn't have known when you signed them that this was what they would become. And we're in that window now. So every year that goes by in this window where you don't win something, that's like, in the future, you're looking back on this window going, we should have done more. I think that the Liverpool, that applies the best to. I know they won a Prem and a Champions League under Jurgen Klopp, but if it wasn't for the City dominance in that period, like that Liverpool team should have won multiple Premier Leagues.
Cleaned up.
Exactly. So yeah, I think that'll be the big pressure point, and fans will understandably turn around if we haven't won anything and say, you've got the squad now. And yeah, you built the squad, but then you've still got to win stuff with it. Otherwise, someone else might have to.
And I think that's the thing. Yeah, you're right.
But I don't think we're gonna have to worry about it, because I do.
I don't think, Rory. As I said, I am genuinely. I mean, I'll hold all the smoke on social media and stuff, and all of that ha kind of stuff. I'm not gonna say if I don't believe it. I genuinely think we're going to win silverware. Of course, I would love to win multiple honors. I'd love to win the Prem. The only thing I'd put above the Prem for me is the champs, because we haven't done that. I know some people prefer the Prem or the champs. Either one, I'm happy as Larry. FA Cup's our trophy. League Cup, obviously, it's not the most glamorous, but when you've been starved the trophy trophies, and as a collective group, for as good as I think you are, you haven't had those days out at Wembley. You haven't lifted the big one. You haven't done any of that kind of stuff. I think you kind of need to, and I do think, God forbid, but if we only win the League Cup, I do think a lot of people in media will be disingenuous, because you saw it in May. Everybody that picked up trophies apart from us, silverware is all that matters, finishing second don't matter, blah blah blah. The goalposts will move, but it will be in history. I always say, like, you look at, we'll talk about him in depth, but the Magalhães, the Salibas, as you said, the Timbers, they're arguably, for example, some of the best defenders we've seen in the Emirates era. They're not in higher folklore, with the greatest of respect to a Mertesacker or Rob Holding, because when I say Rob Holding, you might think of a lot of negatives, but you think of that FA Cup performance against Chelsea, and that's where I think we're at. That's where I think Mikel Arteta is at. Like, I do think Mikel Arteta is one of the best managers, not the best, but one of the best managers in Europe. I do think he's innovative. I do think he's done well. I do think if he left today, compared to when you walked in, it's all said and done. I'm sure he's made mistakes, but we're in a better kind of scenario. The only issue is, we're a good team, you're a good manager. Are you a great team with a great manager? And the only way to do that now, on top of all the positive statistics, is to solidify yourself in history. And I do genuinely think we get one, we might start going on a run. And you made a great point, and it made me think of a quote from Arsene Wenger, where he says, the past brings regret, the future brings uncertainty. There's no time like the present. And I know I can't go back in time, but the 3 years excluding the year that we're in now, it's almost like, could we have won a Prem? Could we have won two? If we had certain things in the squad, considering Arteta took us from a quarters to a semis in the champs, if we had everything we needed against PSG, could we have gone one better? And then you know where I'm going with this, but that's all coulda, woulda, shoulda, all ifs, buts. It's about getting over the line now. And until he does that, I do think there is an element of, are you the man before the man? And that's not a critique of Arteta, but as you said, I don't think we're going to have to worry about it. I hope all of these things kind of fall into place and things of that ilk. I wanted to ask you as well, just before we get into this Gabriel Magalhães stuff, because you said it in like a passing comment. We know on paper, you know what, we'll speak about it, but like Spurs, Bayern, Chelsea, this one, that one, like those are like the massive kind of games, the make or break kind of point. But I was more nervous about the run of games up until Sunderland, ironically, because as you said earlier, there's a lot of bogey teams where it's Newcastle away, etc., etc. What would you say has been the best game for you so far, like in watching Arsenal? Because for me, I would say Newcastle. Obviously, you said it there. No one wants to play against Newcastle. It's a difficult ground. But I think we handled adversity. And I do think it was a turning point for not just my players, but Mikel Arteta, in that when to complicate things, when to keep things simple, when to make subs, when to kind of put the handbrake down, when to double down and stuff. So I think if we were to win the league, I don't think there will be a game I'll look at other than that Newcastle game as like the catalyst. But where are you at with that?
Yeah, there was a couple. I mean, the thing I liked with the Newcastle game was that the first half, like we completely outplayed them, and we created a lot of chances that we've struggled to do there over the last 3 or 4 years. So the fact that we created that many chances, and then the fact that actually against the run of play we go 1-0 down, and all of us are thinking, here we go again, because that happened a lot last season where we dominate a team, concede one chance, they'd score. Yep. So it was like, okay, so we've outplayed them. Great. We've gone 1-0 down. Can we fight back? Yeah, we can. It proved kind of two things within the same game that we had improved on from last season. The other one for me was the Atletico Madrid game, just because I thought that was like a top-level European side, the sort of side that theoretically we should have struggled to break down a little bit. And we just dominated them like throughout the whole game. Goals.
Ridiculous.
We gave them nothing, and then in the second half blew them away. So yeah, those two, and the fact that they came within like a really short time period of each other. Yeah.
I mean, you know what, Atletico's there, you know, Atletico Madrid, anytime you score 4 goals, it's a big European game. It's a bit weird in that you think of, well, people would think of Simeone and think of Mikel Arteta and the way they play, and probably thought it would have been a 0-0. So to score 4 goals, especially with someone like Gyokeres and obviously Magalhães, it all came to a head, man. And it just tips up like where we're going in the champs. Right now, we've got a good chance in both. It's interesting though, man. It's interesting. What do you make of the Sunderland game? Like, was it a point gained or 2 points dropped? Because at one point, both teams had to like get back in the game. Both teams had the lead and didn't obviously win. What do you make of that? And what do you make of the Sunderland game? Because that was the most recent fixture, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, it was 2 points dropped. Like, I still, as good as Sunderland have been this season, I still look at that fixture and I think that is a game in the form that we were in that we should have won. And having done all of the work to get back into the game. Because to be
15
honest, that
minutes
was
away.
and like that was the first game this season where at half time we were 1-0 down, and I genuinely was like, I don't actually know how we're going to get back into this, because we haven't got any options off the bench, and we've really not looked at our best.
And we started
And
so well.
I was just like, I don't know how we're going to get back into it. And we didn't make any changes, but we came out in the second half and we're just much better. Like we were much better. And then we did all of that work to turn it around. And I just thought, we did. We threw it away at the end. Like there's no other way of looking at it for me. That's 2 points dropped because we were there with minutes to go. And that was the first time as well that for me, I just didn't understand Arteta not rotating more of the players. I know people said like, oh, who would you have brought on? And I'm not talking about like the attacking players. I wouldn't have brought on Dalman or Waneri, but it was just,
when it's coming to seeing out that lead 15 minutes away.
Yeah, like fresh players. And I think in the
Norgard and Lewis Skelly and whatnot.
Yeah, even with like Norgard, Lewis Skelly, Hincapié, but also the Norgard Zubamendi one as an example. Like not only is it fresh legs for Norgard, not only is he fantastic defensively, but also I think the header before Brobby puts it in, it's Zubamendi and Saliba that are on whoever the Sunderland player was, and they don't win the header. And I'm like, if that's Norgard instead of Zubamendi, he could win that header. So yeah, that was the only kind of criticism I had of Arteta, and it was unfortunate. But overall, through that entire run, to drop 2 points against all of those opposition, again, you'd have taken it before the start of the run.
You would have taken it, and obviously isolated to the game. We've set ourselves high standards. We don't need to do the most, but you could say it's a point game. You could say it's 2 points drop. You could focus on the fact that rightly so, Sunderland are in a good moment. And when you're in the early part of the season, like you play a team, I know form might go out the window in the North London derby, but I genuinely think at this point in the season, which we're moving away from, you play a team that's in good form, they're going to look like a good team. You play a team that's there for the taking, they're going to be there for the taking. You play a team that's in a mixed bag, they're going to look like such. And yeah, all things considered, I wanted to win before the game. Sunderland, obviously, good moment, good coach. They're relishing it. They're doing quite well. And it's one of them weird ones in that sometimes you win or lose or draw when you don't deserve the result that's happened. Sometimes I think you get what you deserve, and we can't really complain without a point. Anytime you can see 2 goals in the Prem, you're very unlikely to typically win games. And obviously that we could have defended better. We probably could have been more effective in the final third. We probably could have scored towards the end. Obviously, I make you right in that I rate Mikel Arteta your hands-on approach. So when it goes left, I have to ask the question. I don't think for someone like me, I understand Waneri not being there and bringing him on and not bringing on Dalman. I don't think it was the game for that, but I would say on them two, for argument's sake, if you're in the squad, you could be utilized. But that's not really my kind of gripe. I think, like you said, you could have brought on Norgard, maybe Miles Lewis Skelly, Mascara, no issues. And I would also say the players, because at that point, we haven't started. We weren't bad in the first half. We were actually okay, as you said. I think the best point was probably the 10, 15 minutes after the restart. But we've got ourselves back in the game, and we're a street smart side. We're very good defensively. We know no one's going to give us points. We know at that point that it's Liverpool versus City before. We want to go into the international break. So by hook or by crook, 15 minutes from time, as they've shown before, you have to see that through. But it didn't happen. It's a learning curve. I wouldn't say the bubble's been popped, but maybe for Arsenal fans, because football's an emotional game, maybe the bubble's been popped, Rory, in that we've not been conceding, we've been winning, we ain't even had shots on target. Your head starts going in the clouds, in it. So it's a bit of a sobering reminder, but it feels like a loss, and we drew. So
yeah,
I don't complain.
Yeah, the thing I didn't like, it was annoying. It was a really frustrating result, but I didn't understand like some of the head loss after it, because like sometimes it's also just football. Like in that game, we had other chances to score. Zubamendi hits the bar. Like we could have scored more. Their 2 goals, the first one, it comes from a long ball. They do well to bring it down. We should defend it better. The second one, I mean, Brobby's shot actually deflects off the top of Gabriel's head and goes in like that. It could have gone anywhere. So yeah, sometimes you've got to turn around and say like, that's football. You concede a couple of chances, both of them end up going in somehow. And yeah, it's not something that was, in my opinion, worth making a huge like, oh my God, we're not what we thought we were. Because also in some of the previous games, I know we went on that crazy run of not conceding. There were moments in a handful of those games where you could very easily have conceded, probably should have conceded, but the ball fell our way. So yeah, that's just football.
Exactly, it's just football, and it's easier said than done. I know when there's emotion, some rational, some irrational people are simply put not going to hear that. Before I ask you some other stuff, yeah, like just because I've got you here, like first thing, who would be your, if you had to say your player of the season and your underperformer of the season from an Arsenal perspective, who would you go with?
I think Gabriel's been player of the season for me, probably. And then, and this one will sound controversial, but my underperformer of the season is actually Bukayo Saka. Not because I think he's
I
been
don't think
like,
that's controversial.
not because he's been bad, but because just from the level that you know Saka can play at, I don't think he's at full speed. And in fairness to him, he had a really bad injury last season. And I think mentally that does something to you in terms of really opening up your legs to sprint. But also then he picked up another one in the other leg at the start of this season, which wasn't as bad. And so I do think we're seeing him kind of build back to his best. But I think from, the level that you would maybe expect from him to the level he's played at. But that is kind of credit to him and his level in that even as an underperformer, he's still...
You set yourself high standards, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe him. Outside of that, the only other players that you could really mention would just be players that haven't played much. So, which is harsh because I'm like, well, they're
and
not
it's not really fair to them. Yeah,
yeah,
you ain't really had much of a look in. I'll make you
Yeah.
right. I would say my player of the season, I'd probably say our fullbacks, like Silly, no, not
Yeah,
Silly,
Timber.
Calafiori and Timber. I'd give
Yeah.
it them. Underperformer, I think a lot of the attacking unit, if I'm completely honest with you, and that's another question to ask you, because I actually feel at this moment, probably Martinelli before he picked up that, but I think Trossard has been head and shoulders above everyone. Now, I know there's been injuries, there's been new signings, and relationships have to build, but I don't think we've seen anywhere near enough from Eze. Not to say he's been bad. I make you right with Bukayo. Obviously, you've got Gyokeres. I'd say the whole attacking unit. Madueke was all right. Obviously, he got injured, so he's a bit quote-unquote irrelevant from this, but I need, especially with the landscape we're going into now, and our defenders have been head and shoulders above everyone. And even at a push, I think Zubamendi and definitely Rice have been good. Do you feel like, are you concerned about our attackers? And like, what would you say is the reason they're not fit and firing? And, Saka's not bagging, Eze's not dazzling per se, Gyokeres ain't slapping them in, etc., and the names I haven't mentioned. Because as I said, for me, beyond Trossard, I think Trossard's been up here. I think everyone else, there's kind of more to come.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think the main thing's been inconsistency in terms of we just haven't been able to field. I remember 8 games into the season, I did it for a video. 8 games into the season, Victor Gyokeres had played with 7 different combinations of the other 3 attackers around him. So I'm like, there's no way of building that kind of understanding with each other, especially when these are new players. Like Gyokeres is new to the league. All right, Madueke is Premier League experience, but he's playing at a different club. He would maybe be playing off the left if Saka had been fit, but Saka wasn't fit. You've then had Ødegaard, and Eze and Waneri all playing in midfield. There's just been a lot of inconsistency. So I think, again, the fact that we've managed to get to where we are in the league, despite all of that, is impressive. And games where you're starting with, if you look at the attackers, like the front 4, including that attacking midfielder, you're looking at starting games where 2 or 3 of them are new signings anyway. And you look at the way that Liverpool have struggled to kind of integrate their attacking players. But then also the fact that, there's just this constant rotation of who's playing. I think if we can settle down and we can avoid some injuries, I think long term we probably end up with...
You need to. I'm getting scared, man.
yeah, it's annoying, especially the ones like Madueke that's been out for actually a fair while from what at the time seemed like a pretty minor thing. But
even that,
it's frustrating.
It's the start of the season, it's crazy how quickly
exactly.
time flies.
And Havertz is an interesting one because I do actually think by the time he comes back, if we're looking at sort of mid-December, that's basically 10 months where he's not played. He got injured at the start of February, and he's going to be coming back end of December, having effectively played pre-season games and nothing else. So I think it'll take a bit of time for him to get back up to speed. And you got
a couple minutes against
Gabriel
United,
Jesus. Yeah, exactly. Gabriel Jesus is coming back after basically a year. So it's going to take time, but I'll be interested to see because, like you said, I agree. Trossard's probably been our best attacking player consistently,
and his future's still subject to speculation, quote unquote.
Yeah, if you had said at the start of the season, if you looked at people building out squads and stuff of who was going to play, there was a fair argument that Trossard might not even make it to the bench for a Premier League game when everyone's fit and available. So the fact that we've gone from that to him being our best attacking player is probably shows you that a lot of those attacking players have either underperformed or been injured. But yeah, like I said, the fact that we are where we are, and we know that attacking situation can only really get better, is not a bad thing.
We need them to, man. And I think that's the thing I'm looking at in that. Yeah, I know we always poke fun of, they're like new signings when they get back fit. But I do think Arsenal football fans better yet get into this trap of like, if Gabriel's fit, I don't know, December the 25th. Like, yeah, he's been signed off and he's ready, but he's got to get back into the groove of things, get a bit of fluidity. Obviously, there's an element of match fitness. It's not kind of quote unquote plug and play. And I feel sorry for Magalhaes because this is your second big injury in a year, essentially. Like, your season was ended prematurely. We had to box a bit cleverly with your fitness going into this season, and you've done blisteringly well. Like, you're a lot of people's player of the season at this moment in time. You're a leader. You've been efficient and effective in both boxes for us. And then bang, it's injuries. But again, unfortunately, this is football, innit? It's not unique to Arsenal Football Club. And what I always say, I would love to have the conversations around depth, like you lightly touched on, like when you said Trossard might not have been on the bench. Like, that's the conversation I want to have. Who's on the bench? Who's in the starting 11? Unfortunately, another side of that, and we've seen it, whether it's been one injury in previous years or last year where we couldn't even count players that were fit, let alone not fit, a mass injuries. We need to be able to absorb that. So then that brings me onto obviously something not that we've been avoiding in this live stream, but Mr. Magalhaes, man. I mean, you're seeing everything from a month to January. Like, what was your initial thoughts? Like, what's the knock-on effect? Like, everything Magalhaes, my bro.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's infuriating that you lose a player that's that important, that's been playing so well in a literal friendly. Like, if it's a World Cup qualifier and he's desperate to play in it, I get that. As much as some people still don't, and they say if it's a World Cup qualifier and they need a result, 100%, you represent your country. Incredibly proud thing to do. For a friendly, I think it's a joke. And yeah, I don't know whose decision it was for him to play. I know they were talking about the fact that they were kind of managing his load and stuff, and I don't know.
Militao got injured as
Brazil
well. Brazil, FA.
Yeah, Brazil have a history of screwing people over in that way. So yeah, it's frustrating, and then obviously you've got like having it happen now, where even previously when we've had certain injuries, you're like, okay, well he's going to miss 2 weeks, but then we've got an international break, so that's like 2 weeks of his recovery.
Kind of cheat the game a bit.
Yeah, now it's like we got 2 games a week every week until pretty much the end of the season, or March, the next international break. So yeah, it's tough. Obviously, compared to last season, we brought in Jakub Kiwior, who did a great job, and I have a lot of respect for what he did, but we undoubtedly lost a huge amount of defensive security, especially from set pieces. Like, I think people
leadership with the great
underrate that. Exactly. And then you lose the offensive threat that he provides from corners as well. So we've got more solutions to it. You've got Hincapié, you've got Mosquera, you've got Calafiori could play there if you play Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back, and it'll be interesting to see what we do. I don't feel as kind of worried about it as I did last season. But yeah, it's just not ideal, is it?
Beyond the obvious, I would say, obviously, I want him fit. Everyone wants to have their best players. I do think there's a bit of a lazy view on social media. And, if you lot really have this great depth, why are you crying about Magalhaes? And I'll just stop and say, hold on for a minute. Any player, any team, apologies, that doesn't have their best players, they're going to feel that. You saw it with Rodri. We saw it many a year ago with Saliba. We saw it last season. We've seen it even a couple years ago. I can't remember the year for the life of me, but Liverpool fighting for the title, there was bare injuries, and I think even Van Dijk, and it just derailed everything. But you can consider that and consider, yes, we're hardly looking around, and you've got Socrates and Mustafi. You've got great players. Like, our defensive unit is quality type of thing. We're going to have to get on with it. For me, if there's anything that scares me, is we've got a lot of games. We've had a lot of games. We are managing a lot of loads, like with Calafiori and whatnot. It's more the players that are available, you're having to utilize them a bit kind of more, if that makes sense. But it is like even Hincapié, like he had groin surgery in the summer. He's trying to get back into the groove of things. You're going to have to box smartly with him. Maybe not so much Timber, but I'm always going to have that around Timber and Benjamin White and so on and so forth. So it is what it is. I mean, I think everybody's excited as much as they can be with who gets an opportunity. Like, for you, what do you do? Do you put Calafiori at left side centre half? Do you play Hincapié? Is it a Mosquera thing? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I think the only time Gabriel's not played before this season, we bought Mosquera in at left centre back, but it was against Port Vale, and I'm like, it's
Yeah,
a bit of a different caliber, Port Vale to Spurs. I
yeah,
think for
different
me,
ball
it'll
game.
probably I think for me it'll probably be Hincapié. I think Arteta has always kind of shown that he prefers to have a left-footed left centre back and a right-footed right centre back. That was why, like, 22-23, he brought in Rob Holding for ages before he gave Kivior the chance at right centre back because he preferred that right footer. I think Hincapié's got the pace in terms of that recovery pace. So, we're going to continue playing that really aggressive high line. I think with Hincapié, you do lose what Gabriel has in terms of being able to pin their centre forward on the halfway line, win those long balls every time. But Hincapié's got the recovery pace to cover it. He's got that aggression that Gabriel has. And I do think he's got the experience. Look, as good as Mosquera has been, as impressive as Mosquera has been, I think now
Like,
you're talking about crunch time games. And
he's an
for me,
invincible.
exactly, he's an
Literally.
invincible. He's got a wealth of experience at international level in terms of leading that team as well. So, yeah, I think he
Temperament as
makes the
well,
most
man.
sense. Yeah, exactly. And also, if you're then looking at the options that you want on the bench, because Mosquera is kind of even more versatile in that he can play left centre back, right centre back, or right back. If you're looking to have someone on the bench that can come on in case of any problems, then that's probably him. So, yeah, I think that makes the most sense. The thing with Calafiori centre back, Mars Lewis Skelly left back, is that then you don't have any natural left back to come on off the bench. And also, I know Arteta likes to rotate Calafiori basically every other game.
We're gonna have
So,
to wrap him in cotton wool,
yeah,
100%.
and that's again back to your point. The point you made about how like people turn around and say, "Oh, but you've been bragging about all the depth that you've got, so why do you care?" Again, there's multiple reasons. First of all, like Gabriel is still the first choice, so whoever the second choice is, we still think that they are on paper worse than Gabriel. So you're still losing that.
And there's nothing
But
wrong with that. He's
also,
one of the best centre halves in world football and the Premier.
exactly. Like Marmoush is class, but if Man City got Haaland injured, they wouldn't be celebrating it, would they? It's a mad thing to say. So there's that, and also, like you said, with wrapping Calafiori up, we now just have one less player that you can rotate game by game to give other players a rest. So now you're going to play, if Hincapié is going to be starting at left centre back, Hincapié can't start at left back in the midweek game instead of Calafiori, which is what we did against Slavia Prague. Like it just gives you fewer options to rotate. So yeah, it's just an annoying thing. But the fact that we're discussing whether you want it to be Mosquera, Calafiori, or Hincapié, like that's a pretty crazy.
Serious options.
Yeah,
Like obviously, Mosquera's not a full international yet, purely because he's in the Spain team. But you've got great players with international pedigree and experience. Like Mosquera's probably one of the most inexperienced, but he was playing week in, week out for Valencia. He's got about 40 appearances to his belt. As you said, Hincapié, invincible, been capped by his country. It shocked me when I found out he was only 23 because you've been on the scene for a while. We all know about Calafiori's credentials and things of that ilk. And like what some of the comments are saying, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm excited, but you're going to learn different things about your team. And unfortunately, this is something we had to consider, or not even just us. This is something that had to have been said when we was recruiting players. Can you step up when required? So I've got full confidence. This is going to sound mad, yeah, and it's not to take anything away or downplay Magalhaes' absence or the uncharted waters we might see with some others. I'm actually more concerned with our attackers because I don't feel our collective attackers have been fit and firing for whatever reason. Obviously, we can't really count players that are fully fit. And I do think we're in that kind of weird realm where we need our attackers to just start making the difference. Like, obviously, like we're a team and there's 11 players out there. But if you were to split that into 3 sub-teams, I feel my defense, you're probably the best collective performers generally, not just this year, but throughout the time of the last couple of years. Midfield, it's a bit Uman and Arin, but I think Zubamendi's been okay. I feel towards the last couple of games before this international break, I think Rice has really gone up the gears. Fair enough. I don't think Eze's standing out. He's fitting in, but he's not been terrible. And you could say, obviously, Eze, Odegaard, and etc. They all count with the attack. It's the attackers that I'm like, oh, I need a bit more from you lot because I know you've got it in your locker. Like, respectfully to Trossard because he's doing his thing. And, if he wasn't here, Lord knows, but Trossard shouldn't be my best attacker. So it's going to sound mad, but I'm even more concerned about like my attackers and just generally with Spurs. It's almost a thing where, you could miss your best centre half and your best striker on paper with Gyokeres. Where do you look at, like, let's skip a tiny bit ahead here. Like, What's your 11 for the North London derby?
Raya, Timber, Saliba, Hincapié, Calafiori, Rice, Zubimendi, Eze, Saka, Marino, I guess, and Trossard. The only thing I would say is I don't know if Martinelli's going to be back. It's really difficult not knowing who might be back. If Martinelli's back, he'd start up top for me instead of Marino, because I think we really lack the press, and so I'd start him up top so that he can press, and then Trossard on the left. Just because I think with Marino, like, he just doesn't, like, he for me,
he ain't
Marino
got the legs to do the press. He's going to drop into midfield.
Exactly. He's a one-touch finisher. Like, that's what he is. He's at the very end of it. He'll get that final touch,
final action,
and the final action can be great. But yeah, I think with Martinelli's ability to press, we'll be able to sustain the sort of level of intensity that I think we need. And then hopefully, if you've got players like Ødegaard making it back to the bench, maybe Madueke makes it back to the bench, it would be useful to have those sort of finishers, as Arteta calls them, to come on. But yeah, that would be my team.
Could you see him putting Martinelli up front, like if he has the option between Marino and Martinelli?
Possibly. Knowing Arteta, he'd more likely start Marino up top and then bring Martinelli on with like half an hour to go. Just because I think that is like being logical. It's for Martinelli to come back from that injury straight into starting a North London derby, leading the press off the back of a muscular injury. It's maybe not.
Yeah, it makes you a bit nervous, I must admit.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and other than that, like, I don't know. Again, most of the team kind of picks itself just because of the lack of options that we've got in attack with all the injuries.
KJ, I slightly disagree. I think every team kind of plays out from the back. I don't feel you can afford not to play out from the back in the modern day. Like, you can't just hoof it. I think where you go with Marino, he drop into midfield, and Spurs can't really break down low blocks. But I think, obviously, I must admit, I did see it against Sunderland. I did see it in the second half against Burnley. Teams, centre-halves, because Marino, and it's not a critique of Marino, because they know he's not really quick on the counter and stuff, the centre-half start gambling. And I do think you're going to see that with Romero. I do think you're going to see that with Van der Ven. I would say in the first 10 minutes of that North London derby, the positions that Van der Ven occupies, or who is pressing him from an Arsenal perspective, that's where my attention is going to be. I mean, I think every Arsenal fan would love to see Martinelli play as a false nine. I think, if anything, you're more likely to see Trossard play there. I do think it would be Marino, purely because there's too much of the team dynamics specific to what Arteta would want that would have to change. And then you factor in the Magalhaes stuff and how we're going to tweak it from there. And maybe even you see a bit more from Saliba in terms of being a ball playing centre-half. I think it's too many new things. But again, you know, one positive could be for Mikel Arteta is he gets to see a new light of his players. He gets to test out new things. He gets to, as he loves to say, find different solutions. So rest up, Magalhaes. We should be able to absorb this. Whether it's Mosquera, Hincapié, I'll be honest, I don't really give a flying F, because I rate both of you. I think both of them are going to get opportunities. Like, I don't feel, like Rory, I don't feel like it's a thing where it's Hincapié, you're locking that down. So you're starting against Chelsea, Spurs, Brentford, Bayern, etc. I think, you know, you might get a run, then Mosquera gets a little run, and then maybe Calafiori pivots across some things. But we're just going to have to get on with it. It could be better, but it sure as hell could be worse. Like, as I said earlier, we're not looking around and seeing Callum Chambers, Rob Holding, Mustafi, Socrates, David Luiz, and with the greatest respect to David Luiz in particular, it's like the levels are different kind of thing. I want to ask you as well, like, do you put Benjamin White in centre-half, or maybe even Timber? Because some people have suggested that on my live streams.
Yeah, I mean, probably not, only because, like, you've got Saliba, you've got Timber, you've got White. I feel like that right-hand side is kind of chill as it is right now, and you've got enough options on the left that you don't need to do it. Maybe in a game, you know, against, like, I actually think Club Brugge are probably better than people give them credit for, but
that's going to be difficult away from home.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I don't think there's many opportunities for it. I'd probably just leave Ben White right now as someone that's, I think, still getting back to kind of some sort of proper fitness. Just keep giving him minutes off the bench at right back. I think the big thing for me is, like you said, I don't care who starts at left centre back as long as it works. I have no preference or, you know, favourability over Hincapié or Mosquera. The big thing for me is that in, you know, whatever it is, 6 weeks' time or whenever Gabriel comes back, I just want us to be in a point where, instead of being like, oh my God, like, we desperately need Gabriel back. Like, when's he going to be back? Is he going to be back next week? I just want to be in a point where we're like, damn, now Arteta's got a question: does Gabriel come straight back into the team?
That's the question you want,
and that's where we want to be. So, and yeah, like there's a massive opportunity, I think, for Hincapié and Mosquera to kind of lock that down.
I mean, Musa 93. I mean, Spurs are playing into our hands then. Like, I genuinely think, I know obviously a long ball forward against Sunderland led to our demise, but I've seen my team, not just this season, but in general, we're more than happy, because if you're a good team, whether we deploy a mid block, a low block, whatever kind of blocks or whatever kind of defensive aspects, you going long, obviously it's significantly weaker without Magalhaes because he probably relishes it the most. That's food and drink for us. If you want to go long, you're playing into Arsenal's hands. We're going to win the first balls 9 times out of 10. And if you read and watch what Mikel Arteta says, the one thing he's crazy about beyond the obvious, he's always talking about second balls. You look at our set pieces. People always watch Magalhaes and you can't stop this Colossus. It's the second balls. How many times? I'm sure he didn't get the assist, but I'm sure against Palace, Magalhaes just kept the move alive. Couple people in the right place. Eze at that point is in the right place at the right time. So yeah, we're on this. Not if you play a high press. You've not been watching us then, because we do play a high press. We do kind of tweak it. I do think against Spurs, we're not going to be as aggressive. We're more going to wait for them to kind of enter zones, if I'm honest with you. I do think the North London derby is it's going to be a stink fest, isn't it? Owing to Spurs, but I'm not scared about Spurs, and I'll eat humble pie and things like that. I think arguably I'm more concerned about any kind of talking points for the Bayerns, maybe even Chelsea, etc. He isn't as good, but we've got Rice. Saliba is still bloody good in the air. Hincapié is actually the area of improvement for him, but you look at the statistics, he's on that every day of the week. Mosquera's not bad there. Calafiori's not bad there. He's probably one of the weaker ones, if I'm honest. Bring it on, really. And even that, if you knock it long to Richarlison, he's going to be isolated. I can guarantee that. So we'll have to see. There's a couple other talking points, man. Like, I don't know if you saw this, but Julian Nagelsmann said Kai Havertz has had a minor relapse on his knee injury, but he's doing well overall and is expected to return playing towards the end of the year. How do you feel about that? Because I know Gyokeres is going to come back soon, but there's a prospect of, at least for the short term, an extended period of probably Marino up front, reminiscent of last season.
Yeah. The only thing I'm hopeful with that Havertz one is that, like, he doesn't say that the minor relapse happened like now. My only hope is that the minor relapse like already happened, because at one point it was possible that he was going to be returning like before the international break we just had. So I'm wondering
him and Noni against Sunderland.
Exactly right. So I'm hoping that maybe it was kind of he had a minor relapse, and Arsenal said to Germany, "Oh, he's had a minor relapse. Like, he can't go on the international break. We didn't play him against Sunderland." And that maybe he's actually closer to a return than, I mean, like towards the end of the year. Like, you could argue we're towards the end of the year now. Like, we're nearly in December. So yeah, I'm hoping that one is. Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping that one's not as bad as it sounds. And then yeah, Gyokeres, I don't know. We've never really had any kind of like proper information about the injury that Gyokeres got.
Half of the players are scheduled to come back by early December.
Yeah, so we're what, 10 days away from the start of December, but like who knows? I feel like this is the thing. I feel like there's just a lot of players right now where we're like, how close are they to being back? Could we see them, if not against Spurs? I don't really care about Bayern in the sense that like that game's not as important, but Chelsea the following weekend, I think Chelsea's a much harder game than Spurs. Can we get some of them back for that? Hopefully. Obviously, I saw Hand of Arsenal say today Martin Ødegaard could be back in the squad.
Come on, big up Hand of Arsenal. We need Ødegaard, man. Some Arsenal fans don't want to admit it, and everyone gets criticisms, but we need everyone. And I think we miss Ødegaard more than people want to make out. Whether that provides options with Eze going out wide or Eze and Ødegaard playing together, we miss Ødegaard a lot more, especially if Marino's going to play up front and Gyokeres has some sort of injury that sees him out with Havertz. You're going to need Ødegaard for that press. And it's not irrelevant, but it's relevant. As much as I'm an Arsenal fan, my heart does bleed for several of these players because, they all have one eye on, let me win stuff with Arsenal. It's a World Cup kind of thing. Even our captain, because Norway have just got there. So it'd be interesting, man. Do you think we miss Ødegaard more than some make out?
Yeah, massively. Like, for me right now, a fit Ødegaard walks back into the team pretty easily, I think. And not because I don't think Eze can do the job. I think he does a different job there. But for me, Eze is more useful right now off the left. I think Saka is missing Ødegaard. I think Gyokeres looked at his best when he had Ødegaard behind him, because Ødegaard was playing, and it was different to what we'd seen from Ødegaard in terms of, there was two things. One was that he was kind of given way more freedom to drift around, to drop deeper, to move over to the left. And also, like, he was way more willing to just get the ball, look up and see if Gyokeres was making that run in behind. And if he was going to play the ball. And it might not work all the time, but he was going to try
Newcastle will come to mind.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think Ødegaard will make a massive... I think Ødegaard and Gyokeres coming back, hopefully around the same sort of time, will make a massive difference. And it will give... I think with Eze, there's less of a pressure. I think when your role in the team is to be that kind of creative central force, there's a lot of pressure and responsibility.
And still have to press. And you're still learning what you need to learn.
You're still learning a lot, exactly. And I also I don't think Eze is necessarily that guy. Like, even if you watch Palace, Eze wasn't the guy that's going to be kind of picking up the ball in every phase of play and dictating the game.
He's just capable of talismanic moments.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we've needed. Like, there have been plenty of games where we just have needed that one moment to break a game open. And he's already provided that against Palace. And yeah, so Ødegaard for me is a big miss, and hopefully he's available on Sunday.
Side note, but we've in general we've touched on Zubamendi, we've touched on Gyokeres, we've mentioned there's out of all the 8 signings, and it's a bit unfair to the Norgards and the Keppers and maybe even Mascara, because you've done well, but you haven't been exposed to significant minutes. Who would be your signing of the season at the moment from us? Like, who's the one for you?
Zubamendi for me. I think Zubamendi's signing of the season in the Prem, beyond Arsenal in the whole Prem. I think people massively underrate how difficult it is to come in and play in that position from a different league. Like, go and watch Rodri's first season in the Premier League. Like, he struggled to get to grips with it, whereas Zubamendi has just hit the ground running. Like, he's very quickly got up to speed with the physicality and the pace of the game, the time on the ball. Mikel Merino, for me, it took him about 6 months to realize that he doesn't have as much time on the ball as he did in Spain. And for a long time with Merino, it was like he was holding on to the ball for like half a second too long.
I still don't think when he starts in midfield, he's learned that. I'll be real.
Yeah, possibly not.
I love Merino.
Whereas Zubamendi, I felt like that took him about 2 games to pick that up. And he's been so influential at both ends of the pitch. We look far more defensively solid with him. He's breaking games open. He's scoring goals. Could have scored against Sunderland as well. So, yeah, I just think overall, he's been unbelievable. And him and Rice as a partnership is the best in the league, I think.
Havertz has been decent, just hasn't got Prem GA. I hear that, but if the bar's that low, please, KJ, I got love for you. You can't discuss Bukayo Saka. I wanted to ask you as well, Rory. Is Zubamendi better than Partey? Because for me, I think he is. I've gone off the bat. Like, Partey, maybe 2020, you could say that, but Thomas Partey hasn't been that Partey for years. So he's way better than him.
For me, there were certain things that Partey still did in terms of, receiving the ball on the turn and moving it out quickly that always looked really impressive, and they were impressive. But there were so many times last season, in the last couple of years, where Partey was costing us defensively, losing track of players, losing track of where he should be. For me, Zubamendi is a different caliber of player. I think it's a massive upgrade. And
I still think, I just feel in today's day and age, maybe it's social media and whatnot, but, whether it's, to be fair, whether it's Wirtz, whether it's the players at Arsenal, whether they're doing good or bad, I just feel it's a bit mad to judge players 11 games into the season. Like, I always feel the first 6 months, I've seen, you said it, Rodri took a while. I'll throw in another one. Leroy Sané. I actually feel Arsenal kicked off Leroy Sané's career in the Premier League, because I can't remember the year, but there was a year we wore a yellow kit. And I remember we was on to City. It was City away. We were on to City in the first half. We looked like we might win. Second half, they turned it around. I think Sané bagged. And since then, obviously, history, it happened. It is what it is, man. But yeah, man, if we're saying all of this generally before, we really got our squad in the right kind of groove, the sky's the limit. And I go back to what I said in that I can't tell you which bit of silverware, but I will be amazed. And I don't think it will happen. In May of 2026, Arsenal are winning something, man. You got any hopes for Gabriel Jesus for this weekend or in general? Because especially with the Gyokeres stuff and whatever, we need a body there. And I actually thought he would play left wing for us if everybody was fit. Probably need a forward. What are you saying for Jesus?
Yeah, it's just so difficult to know what he's going to look like coming back. Obviously, even before the ACL, we had knee injuries. Just before he did his ACL, it looked like he was kind of somewhat getting back to a level that we knew he could play at, and he was looking exciting. Obviously, he had those goals against Palace. Who knows with that sort of recovery. Is he going to recover from an ACL in the same way Jurriën Timber did? I think it's unlikely. But equally,
well.
but equally, like, he's still a very different player to anything else we've got. Like, he's still a unique sort of style. Yeah, exactly. So I still think he's got something to offer. Even if he hasn't got that sort of burst of pace, even if he had, like, I still think that he can offer things to the team and the squad. And in certain games where you go, we got 15 minutes, it's 0-0, we need a goal. That sort of chaos that he can bring to the box, it's something that we don't necessarily have. So, yeah, look, I don't know when he's going to be back. Like, I know he's been back on grass for a while. I think with Timber, I remember we saw him play a couple of under-21 games before he actually came back into the senior squad. Who knows? But hopefully we get to see something from him again.
There might be them weird ones where, like, you see him on the bench, he doesn't necessarily play. You made a point, and I make you right about 21s. For me, again, he's just a tool in the toolbox. Whether you're left wing, whether you're up front, whether you're one of the players Mikel Arteta kind of gives you more of a tactical job, it is what it is. And I want Gabriel Jesus to get fit, and I want to have those conversations. Do we keep him and stuff like that? Obviously, we all know he's contracted until 2027, and he's on big wages, and he's coming back from an injury. So I don't necessarily know he'll be flooded with offers, but we all know if the club ideally, in my opinion, not just this year, but last couple of years, he's one of those that would be moved on, could be moved on, and things of that ilk. So we'll have to see. But for what is there to play at this season, when we need him in it in some degree, and that article from the Daily Mail kind of sums that up. Any hope for Rodrigo? I have to ask. I've been asking everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I was desperate for him in the summer. He was like my number one target. I still think that he's got a lot to give. I still think someone is going to get that player, and if they use him correctly, and if they let him kind of be their star forward off the left hand side, I think someone's going to get something. But whether or not it's us, I think it'll be difficult. Again, at this point, if him and Semenyo are available for the same money, but Semenyo's probably half the wages of Rodrigo, probably go for Semenyo. He can do it in the Prem. He's showing it now. So, yeah, look, I mean, if I found out we were signing him, I'd be celebrating, but we'll see.
And that's the thing, like, if Semenyo's cheaper and whatnot, and that, Ornstein came out and spoke about it, like, he could be available in January. I don't think we get either war. I love Rodrigo, but I'd probably if both are available, I'd probably focus on Semenyo, because I think he actually wants to sign for Arsenal. It's nothing to do with Arsenal or any other clubs. It's like, for me, it's like Rodrigo hasn't kind of accepted that the Real Madrid thing at this moment in time, it might be coming to an end. So I don't really want that, if I'm honest with you. The talent's not in question. And I wouldn't say the mentality is in question, but for want of better phrases or terms, it kind of is with Rodrigo. Where are you at with Rafa Leao as well?
It's just never, like, he's an unbelievable talent, but it's just always been the sort of one where I think for what we've built and the sort of personalities and stuff that we've built, I don't think he'll ever make that move.
What are you saying for Benjamin White? Apparently his situation is one to monitor. Arsenal will be open to offers. However, as things stand, the expectation is that he remains, with further talks on his future next summer. His current Arsenal contract expires in 2028.
Yeah, it's a difficult one with Ben White, because he ran himself into the ground for the team. Like, he genuinely damaged his own career, like, for the sake of what we needed from him. And
for years.
I saw a thing earlier, like, we have to win a Premier League title for him, if nothing else. But it is difficult, because I do think it's no longer a question of who's the best right back out of him and Timber. I think right now Timber is clearly the number one option, and because of that, it's then difficult for Ben White to come in. He maybe gets a game every other midweek. Well. Yeah, exactly. So then you start coming back in, and you are maybe playing once every 2 weeks or whatever. It's difficult to build up the sort of rhythm and stuff. I think it's a difficult one. Like, I wouldn't blame him if next summer, with 2 years left on his deal, there probably is a big conversation to be had as to what his role is in the squad going forwards. And if he hasn't got a long-term role that he's happy with, maybe you do sell him next summer, because he still holds value at that point. Whereas you get him into the final year, a year older, he probably loses a lot of that value. So
how much
it's a difficult one.
because we spent 50 million on him, and on one hand, his profile clearly has risen. He's become an England international, but he's not really been fit and available. Like, what's a ballpark figure?
I think you could still get like 40 million for him. I don't think you'd make a profit, but I think with like 40 million, especially if you were looking at a team that actually wanted to bring him back in as a centre back. I think like because of the injuries that he's had and stuff, and for us at least, that fullback role is so physically demanding. I think as he gets older now with that knee, I think he will naturally just move back to being a centre back. And there's a lot of teams in the Premier League that he would comfortably start at right centre back for them. Obviously, he's English. Hopefully, he'll be leaving Arsenal as a Premier League winner. There's a lot of value to that. So, yeah, so 40 million mark. And at that point, you say...
I wanted to stay.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. Because
for me... Go on.
No, the only thing for me is... Because I still see us getting linked to more centre-backs.
And right-backs, yeah. And to be honest, I know it's illogical, but I'm on it. Like, Arteta, you've introduced me to something, but sign them all.
This is the thing. If you end up signing someone that is, you know, Mosquera can play at right back.
Yeah.
If you end up bringing someone that's another Ben White, Mosquera, Timber, someone that's basically a right centre back that can play at right back,
and on significantly less as well,
on less wages, 5 years younger than White, more athletic. Like I can see us doing it. And at that point, obviously, it's difficult for White, but we're going to have a lot of that. The reality is there's a couple of players left that are still on our books. Most of them are on loan, players like Zinchenko, but there's a couple left that once you've moved them on, anytime we move a player on, anytime we sell a player, it's going to be a player that we're like sad to see go, that is a top player, but it's just kind of the squad's
I think that around Kai Havertz as well, man. I know the gaffer is a bit different. The gaffer likes him and stuff, but especially as we keep progressing, there's conversations. I want Ben White to be unhappy. Like, you should be unhappy. That has been your first team spot. Compete, do your thing. We finally got depth, and again, kind of going back to it. And I know you're right in that things always changing, but during this Emirates era, we would have died at one point to just have one of Benjamin White, of Gabriel, of Timber, of Saliba, the Miles Lewis-Skelly, the list goes on. When we've got this collective bunch, I kind of want to keep it together, and you need to win some silverware, man. And not just our defensive ranks. The team is a bloody good one. Just need to get over the line in something, man. Obviously, Martinelli's still subject to speculation as well. Do you think he could kind of discredit him? Like, not discredit, that's not the right word. Do you think he could dispel that? Because he did start the season, quote unquote, in his role relatively well. Or do you think him, the Trossards, the Jesuses, it's kind of like you're putting yourself in the shop window type of thing?
Yeah, I think it will come down to who gets bids and from where. Like, I do think there was a general consensus we needed to make some money. Like, we spent a lot of money in the summer and didn't sell a huge amount, so you probably do need to at some point. Martinelli is basically pure profit for the handful of million that we spent on him in the first place. He is also on 200 grand a week, which
big money.
It's big money if he is going to be kind of a second / possibly even third choice.
Think about how much you save with him and Jesus getting clipped.
Well, yeah, nearly $500,000 a week, just
crazy,
just between those two. So, yeah, he could go. He could go.
Last 2 points before I let you get out of here, my boy. Ethan Nwaneri, he's being linked with a potential loan move in January. Do you sanction that? Are you against that? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I mean,
probably our most underrated player now.
Yeah, very possibly. I think it's been a really difficult season for him so far. Obviously, they see him now as a central player and pretty much only a central player. And if you're looking at giving minutes to someone off the right now, it's become sort of Max Dowman instead of him, who's probably a year or two behind him.
In the mix now as well.
You got Nani, you got players coming back. Like, even with all of the injuries that we've had, Nwaneri hasn't played much, and so then all of these players come back in. It is difficult to find to see where he's going to get loads of minutes from. So, but it has to be right. Like, the thing literally says there, it has to be the right environment. I think you wouldn't send him anywhere near like any of the relegation scrappers. You don't want him just to go to a team where he's just going to have limited minutes on the ball every game, and he's just forced to do a huge amount of running. And so I think it's difficult.
And even minutes, joining a team mid-season, like you need minutes.
Exactly. So yeah, maybe like a Brighton or someone like that. Someone that plays like stylistically more similar football to us.
Would it only be a Prem loan for you? Because he was linked with Dortmund. Or did you
Yeah,
kind of kill the international loan kind of route? You play here
I
in
just
this
don't.
dynamic.
Yeah, I just don't know how often that like those loan moves abroad actually
Yeah,
benefit a
like who's
player.
really banged apart from Saliba, off the top of my head, who's really gone on
Yeah,
loan from Arsenal and
and
he's come
even
back and
with Salib, like defenders, kind of different. But I think just in Europe, you just attacking players in Europe have so much more time on the ball. It's such a lower intensity game. I'm like, I don't think that would benefit him enough for it to be worthwhile. To the point where, I always look at a Phil Foden in terms of the game time he was getting at this age. He wasn't getting much more time than Juan
and look at
Arias
him
at this
now.
age, and they always, yeah, exactly, and they always said they weren't going to loan him out because they thought him learning perfectly how to play at Man City, albeit without playing many minutes, was better for his development. And I think Waneri could be the same, but it also depends on what he wants. And if he wants to be playing regularly, then maybe he wants a loan. But I don't know.
That's the only thing, Rory. It's like I remember Tuchel. I can't remember the year. I mean, the time period. But last season, Tuchel name dropped him when his stock was kind of hot, and I just wonder if he thinks away from the obvious at Arsenal and the obvious reasons for wanting to go get football. If I go and get game time, I know it might still be unlikely. I'm playing in a World Cup, but could I get myself in contention for that? Because Tuchel name dropped me. For me, I would review it in January. I'd understand if they don't, for reasons you said, and on top of that being a body. I do think Waneri, I don't think internally this is as much of a problem because I do think he understands, yes, listen, I'm 18, I played 30 odd times. If I am going to play centrally, whether I like it or not, or whether people like it or not, Kai Havertz is an international footballer, probably going to play there before him. The same logic with Marino. I don't even need to lecture anybody on Declan Rice and Zubis and Odegaard and Eze. I would like to see him exposed to play more centrally, but I see no reason why you couldn't get minutes here and there off the right or the left foot like what Wenger did. But for me, it's all about the collective. It's the trophies come first this year. Everybody's lack of game time and all that kind of stuff is jazz.
Yep.
Everyone will get an opportunity. When you get it, as difficult as it is when you ain't had a run, take your chance in it. Go and give Mikel Arteta a headache. Because I do think Trossard's done that. I think Trossard has put two middle fingers up in a positive way in Mikel Arteta's face and said, you can't leave me out. And that's what we want. As much as I like the collective and stuff, we're not here to make friends. We're here to win. And again,
100%.
if we was like Man United and our form's fluctuating, then I think it holds more weight. Why ain't
Yeah.
this one playing, that one playing? But the collective comes first. The last one, then, kind of keeping up with Haaland. There's progress around Saka's contract. I must admit, I have to big up Berto, my bro, because I didn't think Saka would be the last one. I didn't think Miles Lewis-Skelly, Waneri, Gabriel, Saliba, the list goes on of new deals and talk around the Timbers and Rices. What do you make of this? Because hats off to Arsenal, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think Saka is always the last one of the big players to sign a new deal because they make sure that he's the highest paid, so they let everyone else's deals come through
Everyone else
first,
negotiate.
and then it's like, okay, Saka will have slightly more, but no, it's massive. I think it's huge for us, and especially I don't know if that article said it, but they were talking about it being a deal until 2030, which would obviously be a 4.5-year deal from now, basically, which would mean he was again signing a longer deal than the previous deal he signed. Like last time he signed a new deal, it was only a 3-year deal. Was it 3 or 4? But either way, this is going to be longer
I think
than
you're
that one
right
was.
on 3 because I think the last couple of new deals with Saka, it's like a 3-year.
Yeah,
Every
I think it
18
is.
months, it feels like, Saka needs a new one,
exactly.
etc., etc.
And it was the same with Saliba. Saliba signed a longer contract this time than the previous one. So not only are we tying them down, but actually we're getting them to commit to an even bigger period of their career, which I think is.
And that tells you they believe in it.
promising.
Like, obviously,
Well,
you're
yeah,
getting
exactly.
paid handsomely, but you're not going to sign that if you don't believe in it. Because, again, you might think there might be a two wells where, oh, I like Arsenal. I think in the next couple of years we could win stuff, but I don't want to sign a long-term deal because if it goes left and the manager gets sacked, I need to make sure I've got like a way out. They're clearly comfortable here. You could even say whether Arteta stays or not, they're comfortable here. They believe in stuff. So it's a statement, isn't it? To do this as well before the year ends. Hats off to Andrea Berto as well, man, and everyone connected.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it's basically the entire squad will be tied down until 2029 at a minimum, with all of the new signings and new contracts that we've given out. Everyone that you would want to be tied down will be.
And like my man said here, the whole spine's basically secured. And obviously, there's always things you want to do, and there is the other side. Like I don't want Saka in particular, Saliba in particular to leave, but if and when that time comes, You got to rock up with some big money in it, and if you ain't got that, leave us alone. And for me, it's a nice thing as well. Like on one hand, I don't want to praise our club for just being competent, but it is refreshing in that there's been previous years with all the guys, whether they're the young boys or people like Saka, we've gone into seasons with this contract nonsense, and no doubt it will happen again. This is football, but with every game you win, he has to sign a new deal. With every game you lose, or when you have a tournament, it's a myth and this and that. It's nice to we're just talking about football. Unfortunately, whether it's injuries or not, it's football, isn't it? And that is the way we're moving now. Is how I think every Arsenal fan wanted us to move when we actually moved to this stadium. But it is what it is. Last question, a most important question, Rory. Prediction for the North London derby. Talk to me. I'm going 2-0 Arsenal.
I'm going 1-0. I think the game is probably going to stink.
100%.
But we'll find a way. I think we'll dominate the game, and eventually you spend enough time in and around the opposition box, it'll get bundled in one way or another, and we'll take a 1-0 win, which I would happily walk away with a 1-0 win.
Oh, Derby, 3 points, clean sheet, bounce back from Sunderland, little bit of optimism going into, not that we shouldn't be optimistic, going into the Champions League and Chelsea and Brentford and so on and so forth. We're in a battle, innit? We're in a war. There's going to be twists and turns. Let's put our best foot forward and let's show the world like why we deserve to win stuff, man. Rory, where can people find you? Even though his YouTube channel is in the title and some of the mods have been posting it, but let's hear it from the man himself.
Just Rory Talks Football or Rory Talks Arsenal on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter.
Does great stuff on TikTok in particular and YouTube, to be fair. But that was the first time I saw your content on TikTok. Like, you're all over the algorithm. You got any vids to come out today?
I'll be live on my channel at 5, which is the first time we've been live in a while. And then, that would just be stuff on TikTok, I expect, depending on what happens today.
And for those of you that don't live in England, obviously that's 5 p.m. UK time. So, make sure you subscribe to Rory and things of that ilk. Rory, we have to do this again sometime. Hopefully, we'll see each other in May 2026. Winning some shit, man.
Hopefully.
Fingers, toes, everything crossing. Yeah, appreciate you, Rory, on behalf of
I appreciate you having me on.
No, it's a pleasure, man. It's refreshing. And also the real men of the match or women of the match. I see a couple in the chat. The chat without you lot is dead. So yeah, man, Rory be live at 5 p.m. I think I'm back at 4:30 with Jess, aka She Knows Arsenal. So yeah. And then Sunday we see what's going on. So yeah, man, we're gonna let Rory get out of here. Big up you lot. Everyone stay safe, stay blessed. Come on, you Gunners, innit? Bless. We're out. Always